רבי שמעון, אני מקווה שזה יעבוד, זה לא נראה. לקום ודתן אלוהיקי, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, לקום ודתן כן? זה יתחבא עוד שנייה. מותר להדליק אחד מהשני, אני לא יודע מה לא אוכל. אוי ביי, אוי ביי, אוי ביי. רבי שמעון, אוי 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 אוי. שם ילך. יקום ודתן אלוהיקי. איזה יופי, הדלקנו 3 כפרורים. Just don't burn yourself, Dave.
Getting there.
אוי ויי, אוי ויי, אוי ויי.
רגע, אני צריך להרים את זה עליך, שנייה.
ומצו סוי מאי חברך. זה טוב, זה טוב, זה טוב. או! Watch your finger now.
עכשיו תעשה ככה, תחזיק את זה כאילו אתה מדליק. תעשה כאילו אתה מדליק.
עכשיו רגע, עכשיו נדליק. רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, יומתם כל לחוי, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי. אוי, all right. Agud Voch Raboisai. Liulu Nishamas mi Meron was Mordechai. Yo. Wow. Turn off the lights. I turn on the lights. Today we have to turn on the lights. Just say that, don't worry about it. Otazoy. Yevalde. Yeah, you used to sit there with the fire extinguisher. Rabbi say today is Hayoim shloishu shloishim yoim sheim arba oshavu ois v'chamisha yomim boimer loimer Afreilichen Lag BaOmer. Pretty soon we're going to hear the music from outside and the different maduras that are going on, the different fires and bonfires. Oh, look how beautiful this is. Psh, who has to go to Meron? You know what? We're going to bring Meron right over here. We're going to learn some Torah, and there's nothing greater than learning Torah. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai himself says that if you learn Torah, you say Torah from somebody, his lips move in the. That's Reb Shimon saying it. So if you learn the Torah of Reb Shimon, then his mouth actually moves. We could be sitting here and we bring Reb Shimon here. Let's see if we have anything special. Oh, dear Belly, being that Lag BaOmer is coming soon, I wanted to share a thought. He sent this today. I got it today actually. I had about MDY. Rebbe Kiva had 24,000 Talmidim. MDY has similar number. We know that Talmidim Rebbe Kiva were punished because they didn't respect each other. I have only seen respect among each and every member of our family, where our common denominator is our love of Torah and not what makes us different. I've been in several Daf Yomi classes throughout the years, but I can truly say that my love of my fellow Yidden and my love of learning has increased exponentially. In no small part because of you. I really appreciate your constant encouragement in the area of After L'Recha Kamoicha and your love for Torah, which has truly inspired me. Thank you from the heart. Your talent since Brachas. Dov Ehrenreich. Yishkoyach. Oh, I know. Who? That's you, Dov. Shalom Aleichem, Dov. Here, zoom in on him, not on me. Here, come, Rav Dov, come here, come. Get over here. Oh, yeah, we have to switch dapim. Okay. Just watch your back. How are you? Shalom Aleichem. Yishkoyach for the beautiful email. You are really, you're here since Brachas. That's right.
I started on Zoom, but then I joined.
And you really mean this?
Yes. Of course.
Wow. Okay, it means a lot. Just watch your back. Okay.
Thank you.
Givaldik. Okay. Scary stuff. Okay. So, we are holding on Daf Amud Beis, all the way on the bottom. The sponsors, Masechta Anonymous, for the safe and speedy return of all the hostages, Parnas HaChodesh, Nishamas, Zechraya ben Moshe, Nishamas, Chanie bas Yosef, Parnas Hayom, Avrohom Meir Farkovits, Nishamas, my father, Yisroel ben Reb Doiv, Parnas Hayom, Mordechai Sapoznick, again, Lzaicher Nishmas, Kedoishem that were killed in Meron and Lag BaOmer 3 years ago. And by Sruly, Bernstein, Liulu Nishmas, Moshe Dov ben Avrahom Yitzchock, the Nishamas should have an Aliyah, all the people that were killed in Meron 3 years ago. Terrible, terrible tragedy. And Nishamas should have an Aliyah. Where are we holding? So actually, no, we are holding Amud Beis. It's a different cheer, different time. Does anybody remember where we're holding exactly? Where? Oh, 4 lines from the bottom. Man ninu shloisha anoshim. We had 3 guests that came to Avrahom Avinu. Who are the 3? No, we don't want the window open. For what? So maybe we should put it out.
We'll put it outside the door.
Yeah, you can put the fire outside the door. It's too much smoke?
No, because it's starting to smoke.
Yeah, it's starting to smoke, so let's take it outside. Lot. Here, follow him with the camera. Show how it goes. Wait, he says.
Slower.
It's a beautiful flame.
It is a beautiful flame.
All right, Givaldik. Dave, you could put it out and you reuse it next year. All right, Zok the Gemara. Who are the 3 guests? Rabbi said, I want everybody to enjoy your final Amud. Final Amud of Agadata. Givaldik stuff. Manu, Shloisha, Anoshim. Who are the 3 guests that came to visit Avrahom? 4 lines from the bottom, Amud Beis. Michal, V'Gavriel, V'Rifal. 3 famous malachim. Michal, Shabala, Vaser, Esara. Rifal came to tell Sarah that she's having a boy. Rifal, Shabala, Rabbis, Avrahom. Huh? Who? What did I say? Michal, Shabala, Vaser, Sarah. Rifal, Shabala, Rabbis, Avrahom. He came to heal Avrahom. Gavriel also the mebchel is doim. and Gavriel came to flip over Zdoim. As the Gemara Voksiva Yavo Shnei Malachim was two Malachim Zdoim Oberev. They went to Zdoim. It's not just Gavriel. Says the Gemara Dazal Michal Bahadei. Michal went together with Gavriel. L'shazvei l'loy to save Loit. The Taisus asks that a Malach doesn't do two shlichos, we know. So you see from here, they can do two shlichos if it's in two different places. It says Vayafoich in singular, one Malach flipped over his dime. So what did the other Malach do? He came to save Loit. Says the Gemara, when Avrahom told the three Malachim come inside, he said, okay, we'll do whatever he tells us to do. He had to beg them to come in. Moed, the lat, Omer Blazer Mikan, Shemisarvim Lekoton, Ve'ein Misarvim Legodol. See from here that when a great person asks you to do something, let's say, could you please be a chazan? The Mishmur says, and if somebody asks you to be a chazan, you say no, you misarv 3 times. Not when a chashuv person, when the Rashiva, the Rav of the Shul asks you to be to be the chazan, you shouldn't be. You're not misarv. You go up right away. There was 2 Rebbes, the Vizhnitzer Rebbe and the Lelever Rebbe. Rabbi said we should keep that door closed. Maybe we should even lock it. But the problem is that Gary is out there. What's going on? They're having a little trouble with the fire, I guess. Okay, so there's 2 Rebbes. The Lelever Rebbe, the Friedrich Lelever Rebbe, Zechariah Levracha, and the Vizhnitzer. And they're both in the elevator. And they're coming out of the elevator, and each one wants the other one to go out first. The Mechabed the other one. Hey, you go. A big fight. So the Lelever Rebbe says, no, you're Gadol, you go out. So Gary. So the Lelever tells the vision, you're Gadol, you go out first. He says, if I'm a Gadol, so I'm telling you to go, and you can't be Messiah, you can't refuse. Zog the Gemara. It's interesting because there are those who say that this whole thing happened on Pesach night. By Loit, it was Pesach night. By Avrahom, it was Erev Pesach. So there was a Roshiva, literature Roshiva, they wanted to prove that, Gary, every time the door opens up, we can't hear what's going on. Should just lock it. Shalom Yisroel. Yeah, good. Let everybody wait outside until then. And then we're going to hear knocking. It's going to be a gewalt. So the Rishiva wanted to prove from here, like Hasidim, they don't mish on Pesach. So if you're not supposed to mish on Pesach, so what's the raya from here? The Malachim, they're knocking, of course. I mean, you're not even supposed to mish. You're not even supposed to eat by somebody else's house. What's the whole? So you see from here that you're allowed to mish. That's what the Litvak wanted to say. Siv, ve'echol pas lechem. Avraham tells them, Malachim, don't worry, I'm going to get you some bread. What ended up happening? He didn't bring bread. He brought tongue and mustard, yishmak. So why did he say bread? It's interesting, as the Gemara is going to say soon, he didn't even bring bread at the end. There's no bread. The minhag of a tzaddik is to talk very little, but do a lot. A Rosh says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to donate this shul, nothing happens. Minalon, Me'efrain. We see the same thing by Ephraim. So Avraham Avinu said very little. I'm going to bring bread, and then he shows up with the steaks and the tongue and everything. By Ephraim, the famous story, most of this, we learned in Cheder, maybe even before Cheder, maybe in kindergarten and in nursery. Mikar ksiv eretz 400 shekel kesef. We have to see the end of the pasuk, which I don't have here. Beini ubein chomahi, he says, the famous pasuk. Everyone says, forget it. We'll worry about the money later. And then when Avram comes to pay, he says, no. Oiver Lzaicher, something that you could buy with everywhere around the world. He found one place that that a shekel is more like a kinter, 2,500 times more. There's some places that call a shekel kintera. So instead of paying 400 shekel, how much did he end up paying? How much is 400 times 2,500? $1 million. Yeah, but I'm going based on the different weights and different things. They say it's 1 million times. The article says 1 million times more. And in terms of pounds, it's 42,000 pounds of silver, which in today's thing is $19 million. He said, don't worry about it. We'll give it to you for free. And then it takes close to $20 million from him. Not a big deal. The Vilna Gaon somewhere says, I don't remember where, I remember hearing this, that if you, in those days, you were able to buy the entire Eretz Yisrael for $20 million. Like, he does a cheshbon with sita, a whole thing, that it's a lot of money, $20 million. Ksiv kemach uksiv soilas. He says, we'll make bread from kemach and soilas. We said soilas. What's soilas here? This stuff. Actually, soilas is more like this. Soilas just means it's fine flour. Why is it fine? Because it went through more processing, more not the process of sifting, right? Rabbi Schoenberg, we'll go through this every time. What's the difference between soilas and kemach? It just sifted better. It's thinner, right? Okay. So which one is it? Yeah, it's better quality. Which one is it? Kemach or soilas? It was Sarah that decided to bring the cheap stuff, the kemach, and Avrahom brought the soilas. Some people say the opposite, that Sarah brought the soilas and it was Avrahom that brought the kemach. The question is, by the way, do you hear the outside or just us?
I just hear you.
Bemis? Awesome. Okay, good. Because I barely hear myself.
I know it's very
If you want,
loud.
he can turn it up for you.
It's very loud. But if you just hear me, give out. Okay.
Why we have good mic.
That's why we have this mic and not the other one. The better mic would have picked it up probably. The one that's on the
I
table.
only hear you. I hear no music.
Awesome. Okay. So, some say it's the opposite. That Sarah brought the soilas and Avram brought the kemach. So if that's the case, how do you see that a woman is stingier when it comes to guests? So they say the famous Maisa, I don't remember who said the but a Magid or someone, that a lioness took her baby and said, you have nothing to worry in this world. We are the strongest animal. One day he goes in the city and he sees a picture of a lion being ripped apart to shreds by a human being, by Shimshon HaGibor, let's say. He goes back to his mother. What are you talking about? I saw a picture. She says, that's why there's a picture. Because it never happens. And when it does happen, it's so rare that we have to celebrate. They have to celebrate it, those humans. But the norm is that we kill them. So Mela, yes, Sarah brought soilas, but that's just something special. But typically, that's why the Torah says, she brought soilas, to tell you that typically it's not so common. Says the Gemara, if you're wondering where everybody is, it's normal in Eretz Yisrael to go out. There's fires everywhere. You take your kids and this and that. Whoever's here, shkoyach, thank you for coming. I could have been just David and Gary. The Shalom Yisrael. Maybe if they knew we're doing a whole hadlaka ceremony. Ksiv kemach asari, ksiv lushi vasi ugois. You should knead it and make bread. What did he give them at the end? There's no mention of the bread. It says he gave them butter, milk, and cattle. Vilu lechem lo'yaisel kamayu. Omer Ephraim ikshal talmidei Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara emphasizes talmidei Rabbi Meir. Why? We have a beautiful pshat. B'shmei Rabbi Meir, in the name of Rabbi Meir. Avrahom Avinu was very makvid to eat his chulin, his regular food, as if he's a kohen. It should all be tar. V'sarei menu oisay ayoim pirsa nida. She became a nida. According to some, it might have been the very first time she was a nida. Although it says that her nida came back, but Lamaisa Sarah, according to some Gemara, she was an islandess. She didn't even have a Beis HaRechem. She certainly wasn't a nida for a very long time. And therefore, she was matama the bread, excuse me, She's metam of the bread, and therefore he didn't serve the bread, even though the malachim he didn't want to have anything that had tumah on the table over there. So Reb Shmelke Nickelsburg says that Avraham Avinu was sitting on the fourth hour, fourth hour of the day. So by the time he made the bread for the malachim, it was the fifth hour. And if it was Erev Pesach, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can't eat bread, you can't eat chametz after the fifth hour. That's why the Gemara says that it's the Miksha Talmidish of Meir. According to Meir, he has a problem. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's Gevaldik. Why did he bring bread? It was Erev Pesach. You can't eat bread after the fifth hour. But according to Rabbi Meir, it makes a lot of sense that you have to say that she was a Nida. Said, where's your wife Sarah? Oh, she's in the tent. So why was she hiding in the tent? Thank you very much. Why in the tent? Because she was makbid on snius. She didn't want to serve the guest, the male guest. She was makbid. The malachim knew exactly that Sarah was in the tent. So why did it say she's in the tent? To tell her that you should know your wife is such a snua, to give him chizuk. So what do you see from here, Rabbi Yisai? A tremendous Yisai. Even though Avraham Avinu was 100 years old, she was 90 years old. They were married for like 80 years. Nevertheless, it's never too late to give chizuk to a couple and be mechazik them. They should be mechazik one another. 190. 190, not 190. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanie bracha. To give her a cup from the Birkas Hamazon. So I had this kasha. What do you mean Birkas Hamazon? We just said there's no bread. She's a nida. Where's the Birkas Hamazon? Baruch Hashem, I found him. Ariel Diskin asks the question, and he says that a navi could be koveya suda on wine. So perhaps Avraham Avinu was koveya suda on wine. Here we go. Here's the picture. Bayoimru elov ayei. So in the Torah, there's dots on top of the Aleph, Yud, and Vav, which is Ayoy. Where? Lim the Torah derech eretz. She'yishal odom b'chsan yishloi. Very, very important stuff. The Torah teaches us manners. When you meet a man, you say, how's your wife? V'omar Shmuel, but the question is, you don't ask about her well-being. Says Gemara, they baloshani. This is halacha l'maisa. You don't tell a husband, send regards to your wife, which a lot of us do, I think. We try to be polite. Send regards to your wife.
Send my wife's regards.
No. Oh, but you could say to the husband, you should ask the husband, how's your wife? How are your children? Be polite. He's not going to go back and tell his wife, oh, he asked how you are. That's okay. But when you make him a messenger to tell the wife that he said hello to you, that can lead to things that we don't want them to lead to. Her skin got all wrinkled, many wrinkles, and the basar became tight. Her face became smooth, no more wrinkles, and became soft. She was one of the most beautiful women in the world, so her beauty came back. The famous Gemara, Sarah told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but my husband is old. How will I have children? And then Hashem tells Avrahom, she said on herself that she's old. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give over the way she said it. I want to remind the Olam something very important. She was very concerned that he's too old. We had a nace in our days. He's almost 90 years old. No? 88 years old? So, there's a very important thing here. You're permitted to lie when it creates shalom. So it's very interesting. The Michtav Eliyahu says, you hear this man, these Gevaldik Gevard from the Michtav Eliyahu. He says when you say a lie that's really MS, that's great. And when you say emes, it's really a lie, it's bad. In other words, if a guy with a gun is chasing someone down the street, and he says, where did he go? And he says he's hiding in the garbage can, that's emes, that's sheker. That's terrible. You big tzaddik, you said the truth. You just told the murderer where to kill the guy. That's not emes. Some people are nichshal on that. I know people are very, very straight. He asked me, I had to say. No. If you say emes, that brings to sheker, meaning brings to a bad thing, that's sheker. Because Baruch Hu doesn't want you to say the emes in that case. So if you say something that's going to improve shalom bayis, that's emes. I sheker? No, it's emes. It's the outcome. That's what he's saying. The Michtav Eliyahu says this. It's the outcome. Don't be such a tzaddik and say the right thing and tell the cops where he's this and they'll throw it. If you could get away and make shalom, you're supposed to say shalom even if it's a sheker. She said, my husband is old. I think this is also a very important point. Stop. I didn't see this anywhere, but I think it's an important point. Avraham Avinu is 100 years old. 100 years old. And if Hashem said, your wife said you're old, you think he'd care for a second? Think about the Chavetz Chaim. You think the Chavetz Chaim would care if his wife said he's old? He'd be upset. No, he's the Chavetz Chaim. I think Avraham Avinu was a little bit bigger than the Chavetz Chaim. But he was 100 years old. He really was old. Nevertheless, you tell somebody it's heavy, oh, you're fat. He knows. He saw in the mirror. He knows. He went on the scale this morning. He knows he's 550. Nevertheless, it hurts. When the wife says, or whoever it is says, it hurts. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little different because Reb Shlokish wasn't a Ganav. He reminded him that he was a Ganav years ago. That I understand. I'm saying something you are right now. You are this right now. You are 100 years old. So I said you're 100. No. Can't tell the person straight. Sarah said, who's going to say to my husband Avraham that Sarah is going to nurse? But it says Bonim, sons. Kama Bonim Yinika Sarah, how many? She only had one. That day that she was goyim of the son. What is this Gemila's son? When a kid turns 2 years old, or a chalaka today, it's really 2 years old. Why do we make a Suda Rabbi Yisrael when he's 2 years old? Very pashut. Because in those days they didn't have formula. And if a mother couldn't nurse the kid, very likely the kid would die. Okay, you'd hire somebody, this, that, and one in the middle of the night, where you're going to find somebody punked at 2 a.m. when the kid wakes up. So a kid could die easily. So if the kid makes it to 2 years old, they make a big Suda. Yeah? It happens at the Mazeh. Imagine a couple married for 25 years. All of a sudden, Neis Gadol, they had a baby. People start saying, you sure it's their baby? Maybe they adopted? She put a pillow in there for 6 months. So that's what people say. How's it possible? She's 90, he's 100? They found some baby. They adopted a baby. And they're pretending, they're making a big suda, to make a kiddush Hashem. Avram Avinu. He went and invited all the Gdolei Adar, the biggest people. But sorry, interesting. You don't invite, the husband shouldn't invite the wife, it seems like. She invited the women, he invited the men. And they all brought their children, the babies, with them. But they did a trick. They wouldn't bring the, how do you call it? The surrogate, the nursing, the one that nurses. The what? Nursemaid. Nursemaid, the wet nurse. To say, hey, let's see, if you can nurse our baby. When she had a nez, she was able to nurse tremendous amount of milk. She nursed them all. So, but they still said, okay, great, she nursed. It's unbelievable. Is it possible that a man, 100-year-old, should have a kid? So he changed his face, looked like Avrahom. Ad Avrahom lo yahoi zikna. Until Avraham Avinu, there was no such thing as somebody getting old. So what happened? People walk down the street, they would sneeze and die. There's no such thing as getting old. Mishtoi badei Yitzchock, that's later on by the Chayli. Mishtoi Yitzchock,
They didn't know the difference. You know the difference.
Yeah. I know, but I'm not saying that. Now I'm saying it. Now you don't hear me because of the music outside. They wanted to talk to Avraham, they got confused, they spoke to Yitzchock. They look similar. Avraham wanted to speak to Yitzchock, they spoke to Avraham. Avraham Davin, there should be such thing called Zikna. What?
We just said with Sarah. That Hashem
People should look old. What?
We just said by Sarah that Hashem smoothed out her wrinkles.
Good kasha.
She did look old.
I hear. Good kasha. Shnema, I like the kasha. Shnema v'Avram zokein bo bayomim. He's saying, well, before Yisroel was born, she already had wrinkles. Rabbi said, there's always a shaila. I discussed this a few times. I don't know if it's a normal shaila to discuss. What's better, for somebody to get killed in a car accident or to go through a terrible cancer episode, a 6-month cancer thing and then die? What's better? It's a hard shaila, right? So over here we have a little bit of insight. I'm not saying this is the answer, but this tells us, it gives us a little bit of Ad Yaakov they have a chulsha. Until Yaakov Avinu, there's no such thing as being weak. Also Yaakov Avinu, boy rachme have a chulsha. So Rashi says he wanted the ability to know when to talk to the family, when to say, yeah? Like the guy, this is an old one, I gotta say it once in a while. The guy was on his deathbed. His mom's a stingy guy. So he says, is Moshe here? Yeah, Moshe's here. And what about Chavi? Yeah, she's here also. And Chaim? Yeah. No, if you're all here, why are the lights on in the bathroom? A person has to be mitzvah. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's unfortunately true. People are shaking the head. Something like the last minute. Oh yes, yeah. So, but people need to be mitzvah. When a person gets killed, the Rahman Islam at a young age in a car accident, there's no chance to be mitzvah his business. Tell his wife this. Here's the accounts. This, that, the whole thing, and talk to your kids and b'chulu. So there's something about knowing that you're dying and then being able to do things about it. Now, there's the first time in the Torah that talks about being sick. Once a person got sick, until the time of the Navi Elisha, people will get sick and die. He was the first one to heal. He died from the disease. That he others diseases, sicknesses. He actually had 3. The whole story with Naaman, that Elisha healed Naaman's teras, and Naaman wanted to give him gifts, and Elisha refused to take the gift. So when Elisha left, Gehazi came to Naaman and said, give me the gifts. He wants them. He changed his mind. And he took them for himself. When Elisha found out, he was very upset and he cursed him, the whole thing. So the fact that he went so strong against him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished him. At the end, he told him, do tshuva, and Gehazi said, no, I'm a choyte v'machti, I can't, which is wrong. That a choyte v'machti, somebody that sins and machti other people, could do tshuva. In fact, as I mentioned this, I'll mention it again, I have a friend that I learned with him in Yeshiva K'tana when I was a kid. And he opened up an organization here in Yisroel, a very famous organization that helps people go off the derech. He went off the derech and he opened up such a thing. And later on in life, he decided to become a Baal Tshuva. And it kills him. He doesn't know what to do. It's one of the most famous organizations in Yisroel. And because of him, thousands of people go off the derech. So he works really hard to make Bali tshuva and this and that. But a chayta umachti could do tshuva. So the Gemara, ve'echad shigira dubim batinoikos. We have a shtickle picture here. The story over there, loy dubim v'loyar, is when these kids bothered the Navi. So he sent the bears after them. They killed 42 children. And Hashem was upset at him, so he got sick. And that was the one that he died from. A different one. The third one is the one that he died from. The Israelis are going to start coming. Put something on the thing that we're not done. Okay, so there was a story that the son went out and got workers, and he promised them food, and the father said, "You should just food could mean Shloim HaMelech Suda, Shalom Aleichem, but I want to give them only bread and beans." Pas kitnisnan, is it bread made out of beans, or pas vikitnisnan? Is it both? Like this. So the Gemara, Omerlei, Hoilikim, is Shvua, Tzricha Vav. It's both. Kimurdia de Levrus. There's a channel of water called Vrus, and here we have this thing right over here. This is a murdia. Murdia basically is a stick that you use to distance yourself from the mud, the rocks. Murdia. It's interesting because somebody once said a mice over from the Baal Shem Tov and this and that, and the guy said, the Rebbe said it's not true, it didn't happen with the Baal Shem Tov, it happened with somebody else. He said, what difference does it make? It's important to Tzadikim. He said, no, it makes a big difference. You see from this Gemara in Daf Pezayin that it makes a difference if there's a Vav and not a Vav in the story. It's an old story, it happened 2,000 years ago. Who cares if he said pas vikitness or pas kitness? It's a Maisa Shahaya 2,000 years ago. So, but the Taisus says it's not so pashut because there is an afkamina la'alacha. What if I say pas kitness? Do I have to give you bread with beans or just bean bread? So the Gemara was saying it l'nafkamina la'alacha. Rabbi Shimon, maybe that Rebbe didn't see Taisus. I don't know the pshat in the story. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel loimer ein tzorach hakol k'minhag haMedina. Rabbi Shimon says you don't have to mention anything. It goes l'fi the minhag. Hakol asu yimai. What does it come to include? I'm hiring you. I want to pay you like one or two of the people in the city. No, it's like a typical worker. Rabbi Shua says you find the guy that works for the least amount of money, 4 shekel an hour. That's what you give him. So according to Rashi, it's very simple. You take the lowest one. Let's say you take 5 and you take 10 and you do something in the middle, 7.5. According to the Ram, it's a little different. Zokte Mishnah sponsored in recognition of all the guys from MDY and myself. That's it. So Rabbi say, if you don't like Agata, good news, we're out of Agata now. What? Not everybody likes Agata. I know, it's good stuff. Okay, we have a couple of daf of very easy Gemaras, very easy sugyas. It's a little bit of limudim, but easy limudim, very simple stuff. You know, like, you're not allowed to have an animal work with a muzzle on. What about a human being? You tell him not to eat. So says the Mishnah, there are some situations that a worker is permitted to eat midayrais. He's allowed to grab food. If he's working on a field in a place that the produce is still attached to the ground, and he detaches it from the ground, he's working to reap the fruit, b'shas gmar malacha, then he's allowed to eat. So let's say he's reaping the grapes off the vineyard, off the vine, so he grabs some grapes and eats the grapes. Is he allowed to eat a grape, let's say, halfway and spit it out? A little bit, suck it, and throw it. The Gemara is going to tell us no, officer. Is he allowed to eat crazy amounts to fill up his stomach? No. What if he had a great meal beforehand? Yay, he's full up to here. Could he eat? No. So there's a lot of halachas here. Small halachas, little details. But the halacha that we're learning right now is that if it's attached, ubetalosh minakarka, and if it's detached from the ground, not mechuber like we just said, actually nigmar malachto, before there's a chiyuv to give meiser. Now we're going to go into sugya a little bit about meiser, when you chayiv a meiser or not. Or let's say before you take challah from bread, that's also a way to finish off the malacha, finish the job. Chayiv b'meiser, you finish the job. And provided that it's something that grows from the ground. These are the workers that cannot eat. Cannot eat. Person who's working with something attached to the ground, but it's not at the end of its work, like taking out the weeds from onions, says Rashi. And if a person is like working on, Rashi brings this case, interesting cases, he's working on Iguli Dvela, a fig cake that was completely finished like this. And then it fell apart. So I hired somebody to put it back together. Then you don't touch that. You don't get to eat from that. To repack the fig cake. It's something that's not, let's say, milk, fish, like the Gemara brings. I thought also meat. I'm not so sure about meat anymore. We'll have to see the sugya later on. But the Rashi says fish and milk because that's what the Gemara brings down later. Says the Gemara, not immediately. How do you know that if you work somewhere, you're allowed to eat you're allowed to eat from the fruit? The Turning the Daf, sponsored by Eric Adelman of Bigger Cup Consulting, and Chanie and Paul Schuster with Hakaras Hatov, the Fishel, Simcha and Ner Tamid for bringing rebellion, MDY and DafYomi into our lives. But not immediately, how do you know that a worker is entitled to eat from the fruit that he is working with? The Chsiv, Kisavai B'Kerem. Rabbi said, remember this pasuk. We're going to go away from this pasuk. We're not going to learn from this pasuk. But in the beginning, the Gemara says, Kisavai B'Kerem Riyecha V'Chalta. You walk into your friend's vineyard and you eat. So the Gemara is going to say, Shalom Aleichem, we're almost done. Anachnu Chshav Etchalnu Amud Beis. 3 dakot. Again, it's very simple. It is very simple. I'm not joking. Ashkechon Kerem. So it says in the pasuk that if somebody's in a vineyard, he could eat. And the Gemara is going to say later on, it's talking about a worker. But how do you know other fruit? Why dafka? Maybe the Torah is saying dafka a vineyard. Says the Gemara. Just like a keren, we just learn it. It's called, what is this limud called? When you learn one thing from the other. A mamatzinu. Just like we find by grapes. It grows from the ground and a worker could eat from it. So af kol davar shekadul karka, so to wheat that grows in the ground. Olives that grow from the ground. When you're picking it from the tree, it's mutter to eat from it. Says Gemara, how can I learn anything from a grape? Grapes are special. Shekin chayev ba'ililois. Check this out. Oilois means these shvache grapes. You're supposed to leave it for the poor person. So you see that grapes are different than everything else. There's no such halacha when it comes to oranges and apples. Special halacha by grapes. So if grapes are different than other fruit, you can't learn anything out of it. Gamrina mikama. You're right. We're not going to learn from grapes. Scratch that. And the Gemara actually at the end says we don't learn from this pasuk. New pasuk. I learned from wheat, something that stands up. Kama gufa minolan. And how do we know that? Then the following pasuk says same thing. Person comes into his friend's field and is standing wheat. It's referring to a worker. He could grab some and eat. Malikama says the Gemara, but also I can't learn anything out from wheat. Something very special. Yechayev chala only on wheat. On the Chamesh says mini dagon. Who told you that we're talking about wheat? Dilma kol kama kama rachmana. And the Gemara is actually going to stay with that too. That kama means maybe it's talking about everything. Maybe it's talking about rice, beans. So the Gemara asks kama kama because I learned Exer Shava. Ksiv hacha kisave bekamas reacha. That's our pasuk. Uksiv hasa meochel cherish bakama by spheres ha'omer. Mamish a kiss from Hashem. Kidding. Chermesh bakama. Oh, so we have chermesh is, by the way, this device right over here. Or, I mean, the smaller one is this one. But the Olam didn't like it. The Olam said, no, that's more of a chermesh. Huh? This is a magal. This is the same idea. Okay? It does the same thing. We had a video, but whatever. It's too late now. Oh. This guy needs to be in the other one. This Miruach one, remind me. Yoshi, where's Yoshi? He left. So Gary, I don't know if you could do it right now. This picture, you could just copy it. You could leave it here in case we need it, but put in the other one also, please. Wait, let me show you. This is for you guys. I don't know. This is just a joke. Okay, whatever. By Spheres Omer, when on the second day of Pesach, when we do the Omer, not Spheres Omer, we take what? We take barley. So that's a kama, that's standing. Ma'osim kama d'b'chai v'chala, it's something that you chai v'chala. Avochanami kama d'b'chai v'chala. Says Gemara, nevertheless, okay, so let's just, let me show you this so make it easier, even though it's very easy as is. We tried to learn out from a vineyard. What do we say? A vineyard is chai b'ilalois, those weak grapes. So we say, okay, let's learn out from kama. But kama is chayav and chala. So b'kitzur, we just go around in a circle. So let's learn out from kerem, but tzadas shava. But what's the common denominator from the? It's not a lot of things. A lot of times we have 4 or 5, 2 things. What's the common denominator? That they grow on the ground, and when they're done, when you're ready to pick, the worker is allowed to eat from it. Both the kama and the grape. So I'll say, so then I'll learn from a grape. But you chayiv to give the shvache grapes to the poor person. I know these are very scary words, but they're very simple. Each one has its own special thing. The red box and the green box. The bottom line is they have a common denominator. At the end of the day, worker could eat from it. Af kol dover. Therefore, anything else, whether it's olives, whatever it is, you can do the The problem is that these things, wheat and grapes, you make wine, you make flour, and you put on the mizbeach, you put the nischayayin, and you make menachas out of the wheat. And let's just add, once we're there, we'll add the olive, the isbeit tzad mizbeach. There's oil in the mizbeach. Says Gemara, you don't need this whole tzad shava. Who gufa kerem mikri? It's just included in the word kerem. Why the chsiv? Wow, how did they get so late over here? What time did we start? Half hour ago. We did adlaka, our boys. We did adlaka. יהיה משהו מיוחד מאוד לישראל. עכשיו אנחנו יודעים איך לעשות את זה, זה יהיה הרבה יותר טוב. So it says like this, very, very quickly. Shimshon took upon himself a big fight with the Plishtim. He wanted to kill them out without hurting Klal Yisrael. He don't want the Plishtim to go after the Jews. So he made a personal fight, and he got married to a Plishtis, and basically he made a bet with the Plishtim, and he said, listen, if you know the answer, then I'll give you 30 chalifos, and if you don't know the answer, you have to give me 30 chalifos. So they didn't know the answer, so they owed him 30 chalifos, but they went to the wife, and they pressed her, and she told him the answer. When he found out about it, he got very upset, so he killed 30 of them, he took their chalifos, and gave it to them. He said, okay. So he gets her, then the whole story, then he left her. So the father of his wife was upset that he left, so he married her off to somebody else, even though she's still married to Shimshon. So when he came back, he decided to burn out all those fields. The famous story, he grabbed 300 fox, tied 2 of their tails together, put a torch, and they started running, and they burnt fields. Kitzer, at the end of the day, why? They took the wife, and they killed the wife. The Plishtim got upset at Shimshon for burning the fields, so they killed the wife and the father. So it says, Vayaver mi godesh vat kama, vat kerem zayis. It calls olives a kerem, a vineyard of olives. So you don't need a pasuk, you don't need a tzad shavizim. Alright, papa, kerem zayis ikri. Kerem stomalo ikri. It's not called, when you say vineyard, you never refer to olives. But if you say the olive vineyard, okay, fine, then it works. Mikol Baka Kasha, at the end of the day, how do we know that a worker that works with things that don't have a tzad mizbeach? Shalom. It's Amud Beis. It's a drak odaka. Ken. So how do you know the food that doesn't go on the mizbeach, a worker can eat from it? Ela mashmul amakrov the chermesh. That guy, this guy right over here. The rabbis call balei chermesh. Anything that you use that sickle, whatever you want to call that device, even beans and rice. As Gemara by chermesh meboile b'shas chermesh echol shloi b'shas chermesh loy teichol. When you are cutting, then you're allowed to eat it. But before that, when it's a little raw, you're not supposed to eat from it. Says Gemara, ahu mevel kel yechol isitei nafka. You should not. It says you should put the produce in the owner's box, but not in your own. So chermesh is extra. And Mela, I learned from there every chermish, in other words, every type of food that you use this sickle. Tenach the bar chermish. Okay, so rice, beans, wheat, great. The la bar chermish, how do you know apples, oranges, stuff that grow on a tree? You don't use a sickle or whatever this device is for that. Okay, nupsha raboisa. Kama. The rabbis call bala kama. The word that we had before, and we said it means wheat. Now we're using that word that it means all fruit. So again, what are we talking about? When a worker works with all fruit, with apples, oranges, wheat, rice, he's allowed to eat at certain points, at the end, by the Gemara Melacha. I asked the Gemara of Amr's kama, the mechayiv b'chali. You just said the word kama doesn't mean all fruit. It means only things that are chayiv b'chali, chameshes mini dagan. You're right. That was before we had the word chermish. Hashidosi chermish, but now that we have the word chermish, it's probably called the bar chermish. From the word chermish, it means everything, even things that are not chayiv b'chali, like rice. So I already knocked out things that are not chayiv b'chali. And therefore, kama lamali. The rabbis call bala kama all types of fruit. So if I ask you, what do I do with the word kama? All fruit. As the Gemara of Ahashad and Nafkalam Chermish Umikama. We just said, we had the word chermish, the sickle, that tells us not everything that has challah. Even things that don't have challah, the worker could eat. And kama tells us all fruit a worker could eat. Remember, we started off the sugya 4 lines from the top of the Amud. How do I know a worker is allowed to eat? But now I don't need kisave b'kerem riyecha. You're right. But it's to teach you side halachas. Like I mentioned before, when you have a worker, you have to make sure that you pay him right away. So one halach is, I can't just walk into my friends. It says simple in the pasuk, I just walk in the vineyard, I start eating grapes. That makes no sense. So Mela, I learned from here that it has to be a worker. You know what? Okay, we'll do a few more lines. We'll just do a few more lines. What I learned from the words in your friend's vineyard, that if you work for a kusi, then you are allowed to take a basket and throw a bunch of fruit in there. Like the kids here at a kiddush, local kiddush. Bring the big basket before the kiddush starts, take all the cakes, cupcakes, and they go home. Shalom Yisroel. You ever see these people come ready with bags, this pocket, I was full bag, and before the kids before you, the middle of Musaf, you work for hours to set up nicely, and they come, no problem. Geza kusi, talking about geza. That's if you say that you're not allowed to steal from a kusi. That's why I need a special passage to say that a worker is allowed to eat. But if you hold that you're allowed to steal from a kusi, so if you're allowed to steal, so certainly a worker is allowed to eat. So the Gemara says, we'll stop right over here. He learns and not that of hegdish. If you work for hegdish, you're not allowed to eat on the job. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful evening. Lag BaOmer. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. A good gesunte week. A good Voch. You're looking good.